Ladies and gentlemen, filmmakers and moviegoers alike, welcome to this week's episode of Critic and Casual. I'm your host, Srekcuf5, and joining me as always is the amazing DorkyDev. Say hi, Dev.
Hello.
Hello. So, this is gonna be an episode.
You can say that again.
Because
the reason we're late, ladies and gentlemen, is because this discussion was not easy.
yeah, we had normally me and Dev, my rule for this podcast is I don't want to talk about the movies before we start the show because I don't want to ruin the conversation for the podcast. That's my preference. But for today, because the way we're ending the show, we kind of had to discuss these movies a little bit beforehand, and we argued for 45 minutes. Barely came to an agreement, and we're ready to argue some more.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, let's talk about this week's movies. I've called this week, it's finally over! Yay! And by that, I mean...
Until Wonder Woman 84.
True.
Oh.
But then we don't have to watch another live-action DC movie to go with it. We can watch something
No,
else.
we don't. We can watch what we want with it.
Yeah.
We're finally done.
Yeah.
We've worked our way backwards. As things go forward, we've worked backwards.
We're the equilibrium. We're the balance that the world needs.
Could you imagine if we didn't do BVS with Joker, though? We would have done BVS with this.
That's true.
With Birds.
Yep.
This would have been far rougher.
I mean, this is already going to be rough.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, people understand this is gonna be... Words are gonna be said.
Things are going to be said. We're going to offend each other. Probably you guys as well. Arguments are going to be had. We're probably not going to talk for like 4 or 5 days after this. Just kidding.
Potentially. Who knows? I don't know how this is gonna end.
So, we're starting with Man of Steel. We're gonna go into the longest titled movie ever, Birds of Prey, and the Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. We're gonna go into our ratings of the overall DC movie films, and then we'll go into news and rep. I forgot to grab all my news links before we started this. Damn it. Oh well, I'll grab them in the middle of the show. It's fine. So, with that being said, you want to start this argument?
How do you want to start it?
Alright, well, we're starting with Man of Steel.
Yes.
Starting where it first began. And this whole argument started because of our ratings.
Yeah.
When I did my first personal pass of this movie, I thought this was the best movie that DC had to offer. Based off of a couple of things. Don't get me wrong. This movie is bad. It is not a good movie. But what they establish is a character who has lived his whole life basically in fear. And then they follow that up with a story of him growing out of that fearful bubble with some poorly done CG, a slightly disappointing villain, and overall about an hour too long of runtime. But I would still say this is possibly the best DC has to offer.
And I would counter that with that they fundamentally don't understand the character they're trying to write.
Okay. Are we ready for the combat?
Oh man, it's gonna be rough going forward from here, ladies and gentlemen, because this movie is why it took so long. Like, not even lying.
Yeah. So, Dev,
Yes.
do you want to start?
Oh, you know what? No, you start because you start because you have a very unique way of looking at this film that I feel like should be said first.
Okay.
And then the person who has the experience with the comic should talk.
Okay.
That's how I'll say it.
Okay. Thank you. So, the way I was looking at this movie, and the way I watched this movie, because I've told this to Dev before on the podcast, and I'm trying to remember this, is I want to watch these movies as what they are. And sometimes I'm a little wishy-washy on that, but I want to watch this film based on what it is, and what they establish this character to be in this movie. And the way they establish him is to be this kind of dark, this kind of brooding character who doesn't really understand his role in the world. And so what I did when I knew that this was them, the creators of this movie, essentially throwing away most of what made the Superman, I did the same thing. And I was like, all right, this is a completely different, a completely new Superman, and I'm going to learn what his life is like. And I did, and I enjoyed what it was. Like, he was different, he had different morals, he had different things that he would do because of that, and I appreciated it. Like, I thought the character decisions were fine. Don't get me wrong, the action itself wasn't the best. Like, it was pretty bad at times, especially when it came to the CG characters fighting on the screen. But I still had to say, based on what they established in the context of the film, I thought that Superman did the best when it came to its storytelling and just the overall movie itself, I guess. The big complaint is they took way, way, way too much time. And I know that you'll agree with me on that one.
Oh.
Because we discussed that.
Yeah.
Because that was the worst part about this movie. It was 2.5 hours long. And we don't see Superman start being Superman. Even, like, we get to see flashbacks of his past, sure. But he doesn't really, like, do anything Superman related. Or at least what we could call Superman adjacent comic book wise. Until about an hour into the movie.
At that 45-minute mark, rough. Like 30 to 45-minute mark is the tanker scene.
Yeah. So.
Because we do have this film does open completely on Krypton.
Okay, wait.
Which is about 20 minutes of the film.
Isn't the tanker scene at like, because the tanker scene happens around the plane scene, right? Okay, because the plane scene was
the tanker where he catches the beam.
Oh, that tanker. Okay, yeah.
Oh, that tanker. Yeah, the oil rig.
Thank you. Oil
Fair
rig.
Enough. Okay, oil rig. We'll discuss it because there's a different tanker that's a hot topic of discussion.
Yeah.
Fair point. I will concede that. No, the oil rig scene is earlier in the film, but it's like 30 to 45 minutes in, and that's when we get introduced to Clark.
Yeah, that's about 45 minutes in when Clark and Lois Lane start to really meet and talk to each other. And then about another 15 minutes after that is when our story really starts to pick up its pace. So it's like the first 30 minutes you could have cut out of the film. That'll yield. But from this point on, I thought this Superman was a totally fine character. I thought he was established to be this guy who is afraid of who he is. He has to blend in and be that person who just blends in. And now in his time of, like, in this time where he's called out and he has to step forward, this is his first time where he's doing this. He's still establishing where his, like, guidelines are. And that's totally fine, the superhero we get. He's still figuring himself out. And that's where I stand with this, basically. Is because he doesn't know who he is quite yet. He develops who he is, and he starts from basically less than nothing. Because in the original Superman, I would say he started from nothing. Now he starts from less than nothing, because not even his parents are good parents. So, at least his dad isn't. Now, I've said basically what I want to say, and I can tell you're chomping at the bit.
Okay. I'm not going to be nice to this film.
Go for it.
It's plain and simple. My problem is, in the way you explained it, I think I figured out the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You say they use a different, like, they try to differentiate themselves a little bit from this version of Superman from the other version of Superman, but they use almost everything that the other Superman has.
Okay.
Every other Superman has, like, that origin stuff. Hell, goddamn Brightburn has almost all that stuff, and that's...
True. We need to see that on this show.
We still do, yeah. But
Wonder Woman, maybe?
We'll see. But it still has that, right? It still has that discussion. If you use Superman, you're kind of going to use the core concepts of Ma and Pa Kent. You're going to use the core concept of, you know, his alien family, stuff like that. This film tries to be too Dark Knight. It works for Dark Knight because it's Batman.
Yeah, Batman's a different character.
Needs to be dark. Needs to be gritty in some ways. You can still have Batman in a lighter tone, but even him in like and I'm gonna make a lot of comparisons to other versions of Superman in this discussion because it's the only way I can describe why it falls apart. Because there's one scene in particular that is the core failure of this film, and it's the tanker scene.
Do you want me to switch to the spoilers real fast for this?
I don't really think it's a spoiler because this film's been out since.
It's not a important plot moment. It's
an important character moment.
To Dev, it's an important character moment. I just think it's a lot
of people who every time I've seen someone talk about this film, other than you, who understands Superman's character. This is a part that breaks it. Because there's a scene where Zod throws a tanker.
This is an oil tanker, by the way. With
gasoline. Like a truck with two oil tankers on the back.
Yeah.
And throws it. Mm-hmm. Behind Clark is a building is a car parking garage. That you would see next to like a strip mall or something like that. People would park at, middle of the city. And instead of stopping it, or having it hit him and blow up in the middle of the street and not into a building, he lifts himself up and then puts himself back down when it goes by him. Every other version, even Red Sun, if this was in fucking Soviet Russia, he still would have stopped it to be the hero of the Soviet Union still. You know what I mean? Like, the only version of Superman that would have allowed that would be Injustice Superman. And that's a Superman who has gone full dark side. And gone past the point of no return evil.
Okay.
That's a Superman who burns a hole through Shazam's head. That's how far gone he is. Okay? So, like, yeah, that Superman would do that. But even Red Sun, Justice Lord Superman from Justice League, who's a evil Superman who lobotomizes villains, would have stopped the tanker. So like the understanding of Superman right there for me is fundamentally lost because this is a Superman who doesn't care about saving lives. And you can have a darker Superman and still have the Superman be the symbol of hope he's supposed to be. Like, you don't have to have... You could still have casualties. Like, something I thought about while watching this film that I think would make it better. You can still have people dying to make it darker.
Because maybe him at least... I'm assuming you're going to say have him at least trying to, like, catch people as they're falling, or...
Saving some people during the fight, or trying to stop people from dying during the fight. Because even Iron Man, in his first fight with Obadiah, when Obadiah throws the bus, what does Tony Stark do? The egotistical old prick in that film. He catches the bus. The car.
Now the question is, would it be easier to just move out of the way of the bus, which it would be in a fight, probably yes, or is it just kind of cool to watch somebody hold a machine up, like a giant vehicle up? Like it's cool. Both. It's both, but it's like it's cool to see, and
it's a hero moment. Yeah. It's a hero. Name Clark's hero moment in this film.
Let's see. In this movie, I know one specific thing that keeps popping up in my mind, and it's not even really a hero moment, which I'll give you this. It's just when he stops the second in command from killing Wolf Colonel, whatever his name is.
Colonel Harper?
Yes.
Who is Guardian.
Yes, that's it.
Related Guardian. To Roy Harper. They're related, and this Harper would have gone on to be like character Guardian, who is for some reason Jimmy Olsen in Supergirl. Complicated stuff. Sorry.
There's
little tangent.
Yeah, there's that moment where he tries to save him. That's like the only moment where he directly saves a life.
I would consider that a hero moment.
The next hero moment to that would be when he destroys the other half of the gravity machine. Spoilers. Like
even then,
he's down. He's
how
defeated.
Does he beat it?
He just supers up extra harder and powers his way through it. Yeah.
There's no. And how does he try to beat Zod? He punches. There's no because another thing about Superman that this film misses is that Superman doesn't just beat things by punching them.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knows if he does that, even young Superman, and I'll use examples like Superman the TV show. Well, Superman the TV show, Superman doesn't just solve things by punching, and it's one of the best Superman moments is when you finally, if you had watched Superman the Animated Series all the way through to the end of Justice League Unlimited, you finally get the moment where Superman can unleash.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's finally a bad guy who can take it, and the city's evacuated. You finally get that moment where Superman can go. You get the Superman speech, which I've talked about as being my iconic Superman moment of him walking, but you, Darkseid, you can take it. And you get the moment where you get the Zod Superman fight in this film where they punch and you see the punch through buildings, and then Superman goes to the other side of him and smashes him down because he's that fast. He's just letting loose for a moment because he can, and this is a fight that he can. But any other time Superman fights in that, if there's a civilian in danger, he saves them. If there's even Justice League that we watched the other Justice League and the Fatal Five, there's that scene with the glass falling, if I remember correctly, and he stops the glass. I
was about to say, I always thought you were gonna start talking about the rise of the Supermen when we have a whole debate between the whole Supermen about what's the right way to be Superman. Because is it the law? Is it righteousness? Is it heart? Is it? Yeah.
It's all of the above, though. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And this film doesn't this film misses the core of what makes Superman Superman, and that is always going to be my problem with this film. And also, there's a scene where a guy gets his head and spine ripped out like a fatality.
But that wasn't Superman who did it.
No, it wasn't Superman who did it. But when you notice it, it's gratuitous.
Yeah, after
you notice
you told me about it, I was like, who is this guy? Is he Sub-Zero? What the hell?
It's gratuitous when I notice it. I was just watching, and I've seen this film a few times, and this time I saw the fighter pilot just go, Whoop. I'm like, wait.
Yeah, I
thought it was a blood spatter at first.
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
oh my god, that was gory.
That's all I ever thought that was. Is I've seen the blood splatter every single time. I was like, cool, he killed him and blood flew everywhere. But then you were like, look at it again. And I thought I saw something when I saw it this last time. And you're like, look at it again. And I was like, yep, that's a spine hanging off there.
Attached to the helmet as it flies away.
Yeah.
What the fuck? This is a Superman movie, for fuck's sake.
It almost feels like somebody was it was one of the people in the background who was like, all right, this is my moment to put my signature on it. Extra gore.
It's Jesus. I don't know who made that creative decision, but once you notice it, it's gonna be ingrained into your brain forever.
Yeah, but
I decided to watch this at 0.25 speed.
Yeah, and you hear
that shit. I was like, oh. Even the fight in Smallville. Imagine if that. So I'm gonna quote Nando V Movies for a moment.
Okay.
Because he does movie rewrites to see how he would have done something different.
Mm-hmm.
And how he does Man of Steel different is that he doesn't get the suit right away.
Mm-hmm.
He earns the suit. He also doesn't kill there's a lot of spoilers in this discussion. I'm sorry. Certain characters don't die in the way that they die. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
And did you switch this over?
Not yet. I was about to. You want me to?
Let's get ready.
Oh wait, no. Hold on. We'll do our. You want to do our points real quick?
Sure.
And then we'll do that. Okay. Toss me the popcorn.
Okay, Dev, I'm giving you 10 popcorn kernels. Before we get into a really deep spoiler discussion about Man of Steel, how many are you going to give to Man of Steel?
Okay, for Man of Steel, personal opinion, it's still nowhere near the worst DC film made.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 others that are worse, trust me. And we've talked about them.
Mm-hmm.
But at highest, I can give it a 7. At lowest, I can give it a 5.
Okay.
Like, that's my range on this film.
Okay. That's higher than I thought, honestly.
Well, it's not as... It's... Because it does do... Like, to this film's credit, it has some really cool concepts.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that the concepts are cool, but the core of the characters and there... Like, I talked about adaptation with Steven before this, that, like, the character of Captain America in the movies feels like you've taken him out of the comic books and put him in a new environment, and how he would react to those. All right? This doesn't feel like the Man of Steel was taken out of the comic books and put into this. Because even Red Sun does that. Like, ooh, he landed in a different place.
Mm-hmm.
There's still this, like, and it does the nature versus nurture thing. But even then, Superman still has a lot of qualities that Superman has. It's just, imagine him with, like, his idea of American values was replaced with Russian communism. But he still has a lot of the same core concepts to it.
Oh, so actually, before you rate it, I have one more question. Because you had mentioned that you wanted basically more talking, less punching. Do you think, based in this movie, at any point, that Zod really gave him the opportunity to talk?
Well, I don't necessarily need talking to solve it.
Mm-hmm. Like, rather than... Like, okay, so never mind. Go ahead and explain. I want to interject.
Because how I would put it is, you can do a creative solution to it, if that makes sense. Like, just... Because we've seen Superman punch a bad guy to beat him before.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, my idea, like, has been done before, almost identical. But it's still a creative solution to show that that Superman isn't just super powerful and that's how he beats his villains.
Mm-hmm.
Because that doesn't leave a lot of inspiration for the character going forward. And it showed, because that's just how his character solves things. Because, like, we've talked about Batman v Superman, we've talked about Justice League. How does Superman solve the issues in those films? He just punches really hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, one movie, he stabs really hard.
Yes. But Superman's really hard to get through it, remember? Because, ooh, kryptonite. Oh, I'm weak. Superman!
Krypton gravity.
Yeah. The problem is that that Superman, and, like, even in those films, other than Justice League, he doesn't save people as Superman. Because the film doesn't think that I don't know if they think he can and still be the Superman they want him to be in these films. If that makes sense. Because, like, in BVS, you want to know how they got around not saving people? Everywhere they fought was just deserted. Easy answer. In this film, everywhere they fought had a lot of people, but Superman didn't do anything to help the people. He just focused on the fight. Mm-hmm. So, and I'll discuss more about that when we get into it. So I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Okay, 6.5.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is probably the most middle of the road I can give it.
Mm-hmm. I can appreciate that. Since he did the worst in the plus, I'll do the same. For me, on the worst side of this film, I would give this on the worst side probably a 5, honestly, as well as you, because it at times is a really average film. There's a lot of really low negatives, and like I said, this isn't that good of a movie. I just feel like overall, this is one of the better, if not the best, that DC has given us. That being said, when we get to ratings and our overall standings, this is our compromise on we worked together. We decided this is how we're going to put things. So when we get there, it's not going to be that Man of Steel is number 1. We've assured that, but
because Steven, we had a large discussion. I can't, like,
it would shatter Dev's comic book soul.
It would, because it's just, like, it's a film that doesn't understand the core concept of Superman. Like
Mhm.
that is my problem with it.
Okay.
So
So yeah, at its worst, I would give this movie a 5. I think at its best, I would give this movie probably a 7.5. So I'll
point
a
half
little
a
bit
point
higher
than
than
me.
you. So yeah, just because I need to make it higher than you, I'm gonna say it's a 7 for me. Because it's still not that great of a movie, but it has to be higher than the others. But I think it averages about the
Would
same.
sit at a 7 average out. So
Yeah. I think it
we don't
averages
do
about the same
individuals.
as other movies. Like if we go back, I'm pretty sure it'll all average the same. Like
like a lot of these films, I think we put at like 7 or 8
yeah,
area.
I think Aquaman was the one that we gave the highest.
No, I think we gave Wonder Woman higher than Aquaman. And I think we probably gave Shazam higher than Aquaman.
Okay.
Out of just enjoyment levels. For me. But even then, like, I don't think we gave it lower than a 7. I don't think Aquaman got lower than a 7.
Okay.
Which, by the way, that's the bar that this was set at. Was like, pretty much, can we cope with it? Like, I guess this list was pretty much, can we have it higher or lower than Aquaman?
That's basically that's basically how it boiled down in the end.
Because Aquaman's really enjoyable, but it's not a great film.
Like, yeah, I've watched that movie far too many times already. Like, I only watch it because my dad watches it and he laughs and he enjoys it, and the action's sometimes fun. So it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. And the colors, I love the colors of that movie. That's the best part of the film is its color grading. So, but it's silly.
All right, so Nano V movies talk about the fact that like Kal-El gets Kal-El gets killed, which is a dumb move because also then how is Superman supposed to have because you killed both his father figures? Who's he supposed to go to learn from going forward? And at a certain point, you could do that, but not in the first film. It's like what we discussed with Batman v Superman. You can't have the doomsday moment in Superman's second goddamn film. Like, you haven't earned it. Because doomsday happened after thousands of comics. Hundreds of thousands of comics of Superman. If you accumulate both the main running Superman, Action Comics, Justice League, Batman and Superman team-ups, you count all of that. Hundreds of thousands of comic books led up to Doomsday moment. Okay? And you do it in Superman live action's second movie. That's dumb.
I mean, it's not as dumb as them saying they're going to do Flashpoint Paradox in Flash's first movie.
No, we've already discussed that. We're not there yet. We'll see. It's going to be a different take on Flashpoint. We'll see what they do. And in my opinion, it might be a good idea so they can refix the universe to be able to have a Justice League going forward. Because right now these films are very like there's the pre-Justice League and the post-Justice League DCEU, and it needs to be fixed in a way that like all of it's still canon, but maybe parts of it are not canon, but it still happened to certain characters. Like Barry remembers everything that happened before, but not everyone remembers everything. Like something like that, okay? But we'll get there when we get to Flashpoint. Nano V movies talked about the point that like the fight in Smallville stays very similar, but the people are scared of him. And then he gets the suit, you know, and he chooses the suit comes like when like Jor-El's showing the suit, it's in black and gray, not blue and red and yellow, and they choose the colors of red, blue, yellow because it will maybe help remind people of protectors, cops, firemen, ambulances, all use those colors. So they can look to him as being someone who's supposed to be a rescuer. And then you get to the Zod fight in Metropolis, and that's when you have Superman saving people while fighting Zod.
Okay.
And maybe, and if you still keep Zod's death in the film, that establishes, and this would be a rewrite for all of the rest of the movies going forward, which they didn't do, is that like that impact of having to kill Zod impacts him to have that as his code of the no kill rule going forward.
When does he? Do we know if he establishes a no kill rule at all? He doesn't.
Not that we've seen.
Okay.
We've seen him, like,
So
we talked about this before the show. In Batman v Superman, there's the freaking,
he throws him through 9
the
walls.
general dude, and he throws him through several walls to save Lois.
Mm-hmm.
Supes don't give a fuck.
Yeah. So, then my question is, then why should we keep bringing up the no-kill rule if it's not even established in this universe? Clearly it doesn't matter, so this isn't a part of the Superman.
Then killing Zod doesn't matter.
Okay.
If that makes sense, because if you look going forward, killing the last Kryptonian other than himself known to us has had zero impact on this Superman going forward.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I mean,
it's added zero to his character.
Yeah, I think the reason behind him not giving a crap about him being the last Kryptonian is because he knew that Krypton had the chance. He literally said it when he was like, "This is Krypton's last chance." He's like, "Krypton already had its chance and it ruined it. So me killing you doesn't really matter because you are the last of a group of people that ruined their chance of living. Now I'm going to give someone else another chance to live."
But it should still show some form of
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yeah, I heard you that entire time, and I saw you that entire time.
Okay. On my side, the internet dropped and you cut out.
Oh.
So...
rough. Like, you were completely fine the entire time. I saw you... I'm like, oh, you can't hear me, can you?
Yeah, so I just recycled my internet. The stream's not back up yet, so give me 1 second.
Yep.
Streamy. Catch back up with me, stream. It's attempting to reconnect in 6 seconds.
Woo!
Reconnection successful. Alright, let me close out a couple of these extra programs that I apparently have open over here just to be safe. And then let's continue our conversation.
So, like, yeah, no, Zod has zero impact on Superman going forward. Like, absolutely zero.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even Zod being used as the Doomsday thing, which, again, we talked about it, I think, but, like, it would have been better to create Bizarro instead, instead of Doomsday, with that. But, like, there's zero impact of what this did to Clark, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this doesn't impact his character other than his scream once. The rest of the time we see him, throughout the rest of the DCEU, this has had zero impact on him.
I mean, I would say from the start of the film to the end of the film, he started from the scared guy to a man who's finally willing to stand up to be the person that Earth needs to protect it from people like Zod. I would say that's a pretty big change, just from beginning to end, because he goes from being he's basically a groundhog who's afraid from his own shadow, to a bald eagle who's fighting for justice against all the others. But at the same
he's not really protecting people, is my problem. You said that he goes to try to protect people.
He doesn't protect the individual, no. He protects mankind as a whole in this instance. Which, don't get me wrong, he's Superman. He definitely should be able to protect everybody, not just...
I'm not saying he should be able to save everyone. Like... Having, like, we talked about this before the show a little bit, is that, like, yeah, having people die during the movie, okay, fine. I can accept that there are going to be casualties, especially in a fight with, like, Superman versus Zod, and it's his first time doing this kind of fight. I am okay with there being casualties, but blatant disregard from Superman for other human life is just, it feels like he's so disconnected. Because he doesn't even feel the same character from before. Because like in earlier scenes, on the oil tanker, he tries to save people. That doesn't seem like the same character. You know what I mean?
But
like he waits. Like even the people on the helicopter are like, hey, come on. He's like, no, go, kind of thing, as he holds up the beam.
But as soon as he saves those people, he disappears and he's never seen by them again.
Okay, and that's fine. Because that's an interesting take. This lone savior who shows up, like, almost Hulk from the TV show, who shows up, saves someone, then leaves, disappears, maybe never seen or heard from again by them. Okay, that's fine in my book. Where the problem starts, though, is when you have that set up, you don't build upon it, and you pretty much drop it later in the film just to have a fight. A cool CGI smash fight.
But they don't necessarily drop it, because it starts... The very first thing is the school bus scene, where he saves the kids, and then the argument with his... Well, argument, quote-unquote, with his dad, with him being... You can't just save people. The next thing is the hurricane, I think the tornado, technically, in chronological order, where he chooses not to save his dad, because he can. The next thing after that would be the tanker, I believe, right?
That we've seen, yes.
Yes. So, as far as we know, like, we've seen those instances, and then from that point on, he kind of just disappears from that life. Because once his dad dies, he, like, only rarely shows up to see his mom. And then once... And, like, he sees his mom, he loves her. But then once he's found out with the shipping and the tanker people, I accidentally hit mute for a second. Once that happens, then he's never seen with them again. And then Lois Lane has to do her detective stuff, not detective, her freelance
investigative journalism.
Yeah,
which, by the way, this Amy Adams as Lois Lane does a fantastic job. In my opinion, she's very true to the character. She's not just a damsel in distress. She's she's a character.
Yeah, and she's
great.
And she's the one who connects all the dots and brings us to Superman not needing to just run away from his problems anymore.
No, and I agree, and that's one of the best parts of the film. But the problem is, from that point forward, Superman doesn't save people.
The only thing that would make me argue with you even more about this is if we got to see more of the conversation and got to see more, because for some reason we see Lois Lane walks up to Clark and they have their discussion, but it's behind closed doors, and behind that closed doors, Lois Lane decides, you know what, I'm not going to publish the story anymore, and now Clark Kent basically it seems like he loves Lois Lane. Like, it's almost instant how it seems like he loves her. So I'll fault the movie in saying that kind of, like, character development.
I'll put it as, like, she's the first human to, like, approach him as another, like, she doesn't approach him as an alien. She approaches him as a human with gifts, is a good way of putting it. You know what I mean? Because she's the first person outside of Ma and Pa Kent who's like, you're not just some person with like, you have powers, but you're also you're seemingly human. If that makes sense. Like, you're a person. You're not just this, alien who goes around who's this savior kind of role or scary kind of role.
Which is what he becomes in the next movies.
Yes. And my problem with it is that, like, in the rest of the movie, we establish Superman saving people early in the film, but we don't do anything with it later in the film, and he allows for just mass death to punch Zod. Like, I think that's where the shift happens, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't, like, there isn't a moment where Superman, after that point where the interview, like, where she hunts him down and finds him and talks to him, there isn't a point other than saving Harper that he actually saves a life. Maybe on a grand scale, yes.
Yeah, he saves the entire Earth, but I guess
that's
not good enough for you.
Superman does that all the time while also saving people. Like, there's a great Superman comic where
I'm sorry, but Superman saves the Earth all the time. That's nothing new. He has to save each individual person too. That's what it sounds like right now.
But hear me out.
Okay.
There's a really great Superman comic where this teenage girl is about to jump off a building. And Superman shows up and just stands next to her and says, when you're ready, we can talk. And she just stands there staring off the edge. The cops haven't moved up to help out because Superman's right there. And hours pass. You see it in comic panels where, and they have a conversation about how important her life might be. And he saves her life with just talking to her. And it's a really impactful, really great moment of showing Superman's humanity. I think that's my problem with this film. There's not a scene where Superman, after that point, that shows his humanity. Because that's the big thing about Superman, is that he has humanity. You know what I mean? Like, he's not just an alien on a foreign planet. He was born in Kansas. He was raised in Kansas. It says it in the film.
Yes. He spent 33 years in Kansas. But that being said, I'm going to counter that specific argument only by saying there's a bunch of different superheroes who have stopped. I've looked this up. I literally looked this up. There's a bunch of different ones who have stopped to be like, hey, let's talk this out.
Yes, but it's still a great humanizing moment to save an individual life, okay? Mm-hmm. And it shows Superman's humanity. This film never has that moment, if that makes sense. Like, okay, I'll talk about a scene. Imagine if, like, when Superman breaks the thing in India, mm-hmm. it doesn't necessarily stop the thing in Metropolis. Mm-hmm. Hey, maybe it slows it down. And Perry is still trying to save Jenny.
And then he's the one who gets her out of the dirt.
Yes.
Okay.
Hero moment. Superman being like, hey, here, even have like a quippy dumb line. I don't care if it's sappy and overdone. Be like, do you guys need a hand? And he comes over and lifts up the thing. Something Superman would say. You know what I mean? And have him save her. Like,
but he
something
did
like
save
that.
her by destroying the machine.
But how do we see? How do they get her out of the rubble? Like,
they don't really show us. It's just she's under the rubble, and then the next time we see them, she's climbing out.
Because the next thing we see Superman, by the way, is that the Kryptonians are trying to stop the plane from crashing into the thing, and then Zod shows up, and then Superman bashes through the ship.
Does he bash through the ship?
Yeah, he flies through into the cockpit of the ship, and Zod and him have that discussion. Zod's like, if you destroy the ship, you're destroying Krypton! And Superman's eyes die down.
And then he lights them back up, and
Krypton had its chance.
Yeah, and then he destroys it, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Uh-huh.
I remember that part, yeah. Sorry. I forgot that he slammed into it from far away, because I remember him slamming into things from far away a lot. It happens a lot in this movie, where it's like...
He punches his way into things.
Yeah. It's like, I'm gonna get this, and then he'll fly in from nowhere and stop that person. Like,
yes.
Don't get me wrong, but that, like... He does that a lot in this movie. There's like, it's almost like Aquaman, where they transition with explosions. That's kind of what happens in this, where Superman flies in out of nowhere and stops a guy, like,
or catches Lois. Yes. That's how they transition. It's either flies in and hits something, or saves Lois.
Yeah. So like,
or both
simultaneously. Yeah. So I get that. Like, I don't.
And also, you and I are always going to fundamentally disagree on this.
Yeah.
We're always going to fundamentally disagree on this because of our difference on stuff. Even though I'm more of a Marvel person, I have a strong understanding of DC and a strong respect for a lot of what DC does. And Superman, as much as I know, I understand the trope of him being overpowered, and I've given into that trope multiple times. But when you break down the character, there's a lot more to it than him being this really strong alien. There's a lot of humanity to him, and that's what I think the character Superman's story is about. Is about his humanity, even in Red Sun, even in Injustice, like, because Injustice is the story about Joker finally breaking Superman through the one bad day story, because he gives Superman a really bad day, and it's an irredeemably bad day. If you've played it. Have you played it?
I have not. I have not played Injustice 1 or 2.
So it starts out with Joker had fear toxined Superman with kryptonite infused fear toxin. Um, and put a heart monitor on Lois and the unborn child's hearts so that a nuclear bomb in Metropolis was linked to that. And then when Superman saw Lois, she looked like Doomsday.
Okay.
And with his own hands.
He killed her and then blew up the city.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then his turn is when Joker's making jokes in the cell with him and Batman in the cell. Batman pushes Superman pushes Batman to the side and literally punches through.
Oh, I've seen that scene. And like grabs his heart.
Yeah. Yes. And that's when Superman, and it's still about his humanity. That entire story is about this, that Superman is so broken now because of what has happened that it is the one bad day story at that point. Mm-hmm. And it is an exploration of the Joker ideology, but with a different character, which is a different take, and it discusses not Superman's powers, but more his humanity. And I think that's where this film, for me, falls apart.
Okay, I guess I can appreciate that. It's just, when I look at this movie, I don't see it as, like, his humanity is still there. It's just that he's not focusing on the individual in this one instance. Because he's just overwhelmed with this outcome. This is the first time he's ever dealt with anything. This is the first time he's ever been around his own people. And now he has to fight them himself. So he's kind of distracted while also simultaneously trying to keep the whole civilization of Earth alive. So, like, man, you gotta, what's the saying? You gotta break something to do something.
And, and I think that's what Zack Snyder was going for. It's just, there's other characters you could have done it with, I guess, is how I would put it.
So if they had done this, like, what if they made this, like, Black Adam story, and they did it instead of Metropolis, they did it...
You know what? This would be an awesome Black Adam story, now that you put it that way. I had never thought of that. This would be a great Black Adam story. My God. Because he becomes an evil dictator at the end, too, by the way.
I'm a genius. There we go.
Holy shit. DC, if you're listening, just do Man of Steel with Black Adam, with a little bit funnier, because you're going to have The Rock play him. So have a little bit more fun with it.
We're going to discuss some of these things in news, by the way.
Fair enough.
Well, no, we can discuss it when we get to Birds of Prey, actually. But it has something to do with box office numbers.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about that. I have my personal opinions on this.
Okay.
Yeah, so, moving on.
Okay. So, moving on to movie 2. Are we good to move on to movie 2?
We're good to move on to movie 2.
So, this is funny, because this is basically the exact opposite argument.
This would be what I would rank number 1 for me. Because for me, so should you start it or should I start it? Should we start it with the same way?
Yeah.
Okay, for me, I think this is the most fun DC has been, and in a dark, gritty way, because it's rated R, so there's a lot of fun with that. There's you forgot the Fantabulous, by the way, but I'm not going to criticize you on it. It's just Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous
Emancipation of one Harley.
of one Harley Quinn.
There wasn't enough room to put it in there.
Fair enough. It is a ridiculously long title, but also I think that's part of the movie's charm. I like how, because Harley Quinn isn't a not necessarily untrustworthy narrator, but she's a chaotic narrator. Mm-hmm. And so, and without a doubt, they lean into the Deadpool side of what her character is in the comics. And for me, it works because it feels like it feels like you're taking these characters, including the Birds of Prey, including Harley Quinn, and putting them into a new environment and seeing what happens with a new story. And it's even a different take on the break, because the story, obviously, if you've seen a trailer, is about the breakup between Harley Quinn and Joker. Is part of the story. It's not it's a driving character thing for Harley, and they do it in a way that not many other things, including a show that a lot of people are raving about, the Harley Quinn show, haven't done with breakups, is that, like, the a character that the person broke up with isn't fundamentally as important to the story that they go through going forward. Like, they're mentioned, but they aren't like the antagonist. It would have been so easy to replace Black Mask with Joker in this film. Easy. Uncannily easy.
I mean, I'm going to argue that point for a second, because you could have replaced Black Mask with any villain from Gotham, and it would have been the same story.
Yes, but
I get you specifically to Joker only because of the last fight.
Well, and it's not just that, it's that, like, they could have easily done it because it would have made it more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
From
a powerful statement.
But how I'll argue that is, I think it's more powerful that it doesn't. Because I watched Kind of Funny's review of this, and Greg Miller talked about his wife's Jen's take on it, and it's something that Greg brought up that he hadn't thought about, and I hadn't even thought about taking out of it, is that the fact that the story is a breakup story, but it isn't centralized on the person who they broke up with. Because if you watch a lot of other films that are breakup films,
it's the main character always running into the person they broke up with and how their new lives collide with each other. Now it's like, I'm better without you. That's basically the whole story.
Yes. But this is actually more realistic of how it would have gone, because you don't run into that person constantly afterwards. Even if you're in the same place, you don't. Depending on how you go about breaking up with someone. And it's a character kind of going on and just trying to figure out their independence, because they've been defined by this relationship for so long. And so they find new meaning in themselves. And, like, they could have easily made Harley, and they don't lean into Harley being exactly a hero either. Like, she's still crazy. Whoever directed this film really doesn't like knees. Multiple times. There's one scene in particular that I love.
Exactly which one you're talking about.
Because it was so over the top, but I was like, my God, that was awesome. Like, because it was so...
like, you mentioned knees, my mind went to, I think I know, it's exactly the one you're talking... It's later in the movie, right? Where it's like
yes, it's the later one. It's the second time.
Yeah.
Technically, it's the second through fourth time.
Yes.
But, like, they don't try to, like, soften Harley into being, like, this kind of like, good person after this. She's still like, she's still messed up and not a good person, but they make her endearing in a way that, like, she's still humanized in her own wall breaking crazy way. Kind of like Deadpool. And, you know, I guess my best way to putting it is that, like, it's a different story than what DC has done before. It's not so goddamn depressing as a lot of the other DC films have been. Like, even Wonder Woman, it's goddamn downright depressing at moments.
I mean, she loses the love of her life. Of course it's depressing.
No, let's not talk about that. We know what's happening. Wonder Woman 84 is happening. Don't even bring up that. I'm more talking about that, like how horrible war is and all this other stuff, okay? We're not going to talk about Steve Trevor until we get to Wonder Woman 84. We figure out how the fuck he's still in it.
He just is.
Anyways, shut up. I'm hoping it's a Flashpoint explanation, at least in a Flashpoint. That's how I'm going to do this. That's my headcanon until we see it. Anyways. So, like, she's endearing. Also, though, I really enjoyed the rest of the cast. With like, Mary Elizabeth Winstead is a favorite of mine. Obviously, I love Scott Pilgrim. I love 10 Cloverfield Lane. And I think she's really fun as the Huntress because it's a different take than what I thought was going to be the character of the Huntress in this film. Because she could have been this dark, brooding assassin character that, like, she is in comics and other adaptations. But she's not even dark and brooding. She's just kind of like, I'm gonna kill these people and then I'm done. Like, That's her character, and it works. Black Canary is different in a way that like she still feels like Diana Lance from like the comics, stuff like that, but she's had a different upbringing. Like, and we'll get into in spoilers, but there's certain things that happen that are different from in the comics, which changes her character in some ways, but she's still Diana Lance, and you get to see that. I'll just get some more in spoilers. Mm-hmm. And then Renee Montoya is still this very broken cop who is, if I can relate to anyone, it's this Murphy's Law cop right here who consistently gets the short end of the stick on stuff. And also, like, Ewan McGregor is just literally walking around chewing up the scenery the entire time in the movie, and it's fun. Mm-hmm. Like, this version of Black Mask is fun to watch, because Black Mask is like this in the comics too, by the way. If you've watched Under the Red Hood, Black Mask literally kills one of the guys in front of him. It's like, all right, so we need to kill the guy in the Red Hood. Like, because the Red Hood starts killing a lot of gangsters around the city, starts to take all the guys who are working on a Black Mask, because Black Mask is doing this thing where he's trying to combine syndicates and, you know, run Gotham. And then suddenly Red Hood comes in and starts being like, hey, you're all working for me now, not Black Mask. And Black Mask's like, what the fuck? And kills the guy in front of him. Imagine that, but played by Ewan McGregor, and he's hamming it up. And it's awesome. And also Victor Zsasz was fun, played by Chris Messina. It's just, he's fun. Like, he's like the perfect amount of unhinged that he somehow fits the role of being Roman Sionis' moral compass. And if you know the character Victor Zsasz, the fact that like Zsasz feels like a moral compass to another character is so fucked up, but so like perfectly way to do this film, in my opinion, and do those characters. Like, if you're gonna have both of them in the film and like have that, it works really well as an adaptation of these characters, is how I'll put it. Like, they feel like their comic book counterparts put into a different environment and have fun. And it's not a story about like, it's not a story about the plot, it's a story about the characters, and their like transition from being who they were at the start of the film to what they're going to be at the end of the film and going forward. Your turn. I'm going to lean back. I'm going to shut my whore mouth and let the critic talk for a moment.
Okay. So, me watching this film. I think I put it 5th on my list initially.
Which is where I put Man of Steel, by the way.
Literally the exact opposite of a conversation. So, I thought the best part of this movie was Margot Robbie and Harley Quinn. She was amazing. I thought that her dialogue, the way she carried herself and her character, the way she acted, Margot Robbie was amazing. The way she acted Harley Quinn, my apologies. I also misspelled Harley on the thing, but that's fine.
You spelled it differently, but it's fine.
Yeah, either way.
People will get the point, whatever.
Okay. But
you can fix it in post.
Totally. You
literally could, because you could literally just put the same thing over it.
Just a different... I could change the graphic for today and fix it. It'd be totally easy.
Yeah, pretty much. You could literally... Right now, it's fixed.
Sure. So, but from this point on, so Harley Quinn was fun. She was funny. She was the best part of this movie. Makes sense. It's a Harley Quinn movie with Birds of Prey in it. That being said, I thought the best part of this movie was a couple of action scenes, and that's about it. From this point on, the couple of action scenes that I liked are really the only things that really make me remember this movie. I'm just gonna go down the list of cast members. Margot Robbie, perfectly fine, loved her, wouldn't change a thing. Rosie Perez and Renee Montoya, that was an interesting character. I thought she was funny. I thought she was interesting at times. I felt bad for her because, you know, she definitely got the short end of the stick a lot. But other than that, she just was kind of there. She was just kind of the character that was supposed to be a thorn in Harley Quinn's side for a portion of the film until they teamed up. Which sure, that's fine, that's whatever. Which, this also, now that you brought me thinking about it, this also makes me think that Harley Quinn is actually very inconsistently written, because we get to the point where Harley Quinn, in her action scenes, can clear out an entire police station on her own. Except she can't fight a drunk cop one-on-one. I mean...
Okay, you read that somewhere else. Did you watch Screen Rant?
No, I didn't, but I just thought about that.
They brought that up.
Did they really?
Yes.
Okay, I just thought about that. I was like, holy shit, didn't that just happen? Yeah, so, these drunk cop, they fight. Things are uneven. Okay, whatever. Then the next point on is the Huntress. Huntress could be an interesting character. But the way I saw her established was she was a character with a dark story who then became an assassin. That dark story is what connects her to Harley Quinn in this movie. But other than that, she is just a wet blanket of a character who's just kind of around to kind of help convenience Harley Quinn out of a couple spots here and there. Specifically 2 spots. Black Canary, she was... I thought one of the better brought up characters, because the Huntress was all 100% exposition. It was, oh, this is her explanation, this is why she's important. The Canary was not that blatant in its exposition, but it was still needed. It gave us hints to what she could have been, but at the same time, it also didn't tell us in this movie that who she was specifically, and who she is specifically is important for the very last moments of this film. Roman Sionis, that name, Sionis, he was a good counterpart to Margot Robbie in this. That being said, he felt ridiculous to me. Like, it was fun to watch. I loved watching him be this crazy person, but he had to be that crazy person to make us hate him and like Harley Quinn. Because Harley Quinn's still a bad person, as you said. So he is like the lowest of the low, but it's kind of ridiculous and extremify, and like, it's funny, for sure. But they make him do horrible things just to make us like Harley Quinn. And I feel like they could have done that with a little more subtlety, other than him being just this also unhinged person. Because that's just kind of the people that Harley Quinn seems to attract. I guess the way I'll put her is our MacGuffin, Sandra Kane. Also a very flat, very pointless character. We get one little bit of information about her in the beginning of the film, but then the rest of this movie, she's just kind of there. And I know plenty of other pickpocket characters who have better character design than her. Victor Zsasz, he was funny. I appreciated him. I liked him, actually. He and Roman were the second best part of this movie because, other than the action scene. The action scene was first. Harley Quinn was second. These two together were definitely third. But second and third are a big difference from each other. The story itself was fine if it was told chronologically and not with Harley Quinn interrupting important moments and key times with flashbacks. So, I like this movie in a lot of weird ways. There's a lot of really good parts of this film, but there's also a lot of really bad parts. Well, not really bad parts. There's a lot of lows to the highs are really high. Everything else of this movie is kind of just below average to me. But the highs really kick it up there. And it's the fighting scenes, which I found this out because I saw that there was definitely like a difference in the visual style between I'm going to say 4 fight scenes specifically. 2 of them happen in a police station. 2 of them happen at the end. And 3 of them were they were reshoots, and they were directed by the same guy who did John Wick 3. And the other one was by the original director of this movie. And you could tell that they have different appearances in action. And I really wish that they just reshot all the action scenes. So, I got what I wanted to get off my chest.
That's fair. Okay. So, that being said, I also... to counter some of your stuff, for me, I thought the action was a lot of fun, and honestly, the best action DC has put forward so far.
I would say yes to that one, depending
Even
on
the
scenes.
even the fight that you may not like, I still think is the best because it's just not a CGI fight. There's no fight in this that is them facing off against a CGI bad guy.
No, that's totally fine.
Which works for this. There's like, I know some people are like, oh, that's what you really like Marvel movies, so that's not a problem for those. I'm like, well, go fuck you for one. They're not a problem in those because they feel like they're not as gratuitous in some ways. Let's be real. Like, they feel more.
Also, by the way, I didn't realize this movie was rated R until after I left the theater. Like, moments of it caught my attention, but this feels like a soft R to me in the grand scheme of things.
How I know is there's a lot of F-bombs and there's a lot of blood. And there's a lot of knees popping.
That's the part that gets it. Like, I feel like the knees popping is the part that makes it the rated R. Because everything else about this movie kind of screams PG-13. Even the cursing. Like, the cursing is a little extreme at times, but you could maybe cut out 1 or 2 F words, and I think it'd pass.
You only get 1 F-bomb for PG-13.
Alright, so cut out 1 or 2 F-bombs, and it would pass.
There's a lot more F-bombs than that. Yeah, no, for me, there's a lot to this film that I think just, it does better than what other DC films have done, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't feel like it's trying to like, be something it's not, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when we talk about it, is what Justice League just like DCU Justice League and before feels like it's trying to do, except for one of those films, from that time frame. While like from past Justice League, the films don't feel like they're trying to be something else, if that makes sense. They might take stylistic choices and almost like advice from a different thing,
Mm-hmm.
but put it into a creative way that still fits to this version of a character.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I get you. It's a more faithful adaptation, really.
Yes, like, a good way of putting it is that, like, Suicide Squad felt like DC trying to make a Guardians of the Galaxy. While Birds of Prey feels like it's trying to be inspired to do something different and unique with it, inspired by, like, a Deadpool 2.
I got a lot of Deadpool in this, yes. Like, when she breaks the third wall and she gets her kind of cutaway moments. But I got a lot more Suicide Squad from this movie than I did anything else. Because Suicide Squad, Margot Robbie is kind of the key thing in that. And the storytelling in that movie and this movie are very similar. Where it's like, we're at this moment, now we're going to stop, we're going to go to a flashback. Now we're at this moment, now we're going to stop and we're going to go somewhere else.
But I feel these are more fun.
Like, this movie is definitely more fun. I would 100% watch this more than Suicide Squad. But the structure of this movie and that one are pretty much the same. So, like, even though the heights are much higher in this movie, I felt it was just as, like, a very similar roller coaster. It's just that I got to go a little bit faster.
Well, I'll argue with this as well, is that having Harley tell this disjointed story works for the character of Harley Quinn, I guess. As someone who's, again, I think for us, it's going to come down to, I know comics,
Mm-hmm.
You don't.
Yeah. And, like,
so there's always going to be that disconnect.
And it was, like, her storytelling in this movie was fine. Because it's her doing her own kind of crazy thing. And I can appreciate that. This is a subjectively told story from her point of view. So, like, I can give it a pass that she does these things and tells her stories whenever she does. But it's so just blatant exposition, and the timing feels wrong, and that's the part I don't like about it. Like, don't get me wrong, at least it's in theme with Harley Quinn, because if it wasn't in theme with her character, I would hate it.
And, no, I agree. If it wasn't for the character of Harley Quinn, this film would be pretty bad. Like, I'm not gonna lie.
Which, like, part of me really genuinely thinks that they only made this movie so, like, it's Birds of Prey. It's Harley Quinn with a slash of Birds of Prey, and I feel like they used Harley Quinn just try and establish another super team of the Birds of Prey, and like there would be a Birds of Prey sequel without Harley Quinn in it, maybe like a small feature, but that's kind of how
and I can agree to that because I feel the title should be Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey.
Yes, 100%.
Not the opposite way around. Because it's a Harley Quinn story that introduces the Birds of Prey, which I think is a safe way of doing this. Because that is a good way to introduce characters and expand the universe. Hey, that's what we've been telling DC to do this entire time.
Yeah. Sure, they do it the right way this time, but at the same...
They don't advertise it the right way.
Yes. They should have definitely done it something different, because this is definitely Harley Quinn's movie. And then Birds of Prey are thrown into it, and they're not a team until the very end, which is totally fine. But
I honestly prefer them teaming up in the third act. Like, them all getting, like, having their courses lead to that point and then teaming up.
Like, yeah.
I think it works. Because let's be real, if we had their entire team up the rest of the film, it would have dragged.
Like, I just wish they should have marketed this differently. They should have told this movie something different.
Trust me, 100%. We'll discuss that.
Yeah.
That's a discussion for when we get spoilers. / news.
Yeah, so that being said, like, I'm just upset with this movie because I felt like, sure, it's a lot more fun. It has a lot better moments than some of the other DC movies that we've done in the past. And sure, it might be closer to the source material. I don't know that one, so I can't guarantee it myself. But I just feel like the story is flatter because the way it's told to us is flatter, and because it's done through the subjective viewpoint, it makes it weird to go through, and it ruins the key points where we're starting to get the tension and the anticipation for some of these moments, and other times it makes it ridiculous. Like, how often do you get to see a character who is high on cocaine beat the shit out of somebody?
Yeah, that's true.
Like,
that was a fun scene, let's be real.
Like, yeah, there's a lot of fun scenes in this movie. It's just, there's also a lot of not fun stuff that's kind of just flat. The big offender for me is genuinely Huntress. Like, she is the dullest, flattest character in this movie to me. And sure, that might be a little bit closer to her comic book side, but as a person who's supposed to be part of, like, the main cast of this movie, that's not a good thing. And then because this is a Harley Quinn movie, every time they step away from Harley Quinn and start establishing some other character, I'm upset. Because I'm like, why are we taking this time away from the fun parts of Harley Quinn to establish these not-so-fun characters when this is not their movie, even though it was marketed as their movie?
And honestly, marketing-wise, I think that's a whole different beast that we need to talk about, because I will 100% agree with you that this movie is marketed terribly, and that's why we're seeing the issues with the box office. Because, like, for in all God on its sake, this film is one of the best movies DC has put out in a while, or their DCEU. Arguably. So, the problem is, one, if they had dropped it down to a PG-13, they would have had a bigger audience.
There are a lot of kids in my showing. Like, my showing, apparently for some reason where I live, there wasn't school today. I don't know if it's holiday or not. But there was grandparents and grandkids. And I was like, this is a rated R film, apparently. Why are there so many kids in this theater? So, like, it doesn't feel like a rated R movie sometimes.
Which, I'll say, I'm okay with.
Totally.
A rated R movie could just blatantly be a rated R movie. Be like, gore, this. The gore doesn't feel like excessive gore. It feels real. Like, the gore feels John Wick-ish, dare I say.
I mean, makes sense.
That it doesn't feel like it's not gratuitous gore when it's gore. It's just... It's somewhat realistic.
Yeah, it's slightly real. It's weird because John Wick gore is funny. You'll see a guy get shot in the head and you'll see brain splatter, but it's not obsessive and it's only on the screen for a little bit of time. So it's like, wow, okay, it's done. Wow, okay, it's gone. What? Oh, okay.
And and this film kind of does that, and it has adult language.
Yeah.
That's really it. And another thing that this film does well too, that I will say is, I saw someone bring up a side by side image of Harley Quinn in this and Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad, and compared them and said difference. And sorry for some of the people who've shown my comment section before and been like, oh, what about the SJW bullshit? But this film is truly the concept of difference between male gaze and female gaze. Because if you compare Harley Quinn between the two, she looks, in this one compared to Suicide Squad, she looks like she's dressed herself, styled herself, and not styled by someone else. Which actually kind of works as a character development thing, because she probably was dressed by the Joker. Which goes into more of that relationship and why this movie works really well, because it shows that, hey, she is taking control of her life, which again is another really good thing for this film. Good job. And seeing that kind of progression of a character and changing and getting better. So I guess that's part of it too for me. So with that though, it really does show that difference, and that is another good thing, because this isn't just a because a lot of people probably feared that this film was going to be, oh, men are bad, this and that. It doesn't really do that. It doesn't.
Yes, it doesn't really do it blatantly, but I got quite a bit of men suck, because every single one of the bad guys were men. Every single time Harley Quinn fought a man, she destroyed him, but anytime she fought a woman, it was a very even fight. And it's not overly blatant, all men fucking suck. But at the same time, it's definitely a women power piece to me. It's not offensively so, that being said. I would love to see this movie again and again and again. And if I ever had a daughter, I'd be like, check out this chick. She's not the best example of a woman, but she's standing up for herself and being who she's truly supposed to be. So...
and I would say, for this, it's it's one of those films that, with it, it's not blatantly like that. A lot of people freaked out on the scene in Endgame when all the female Avengers landed together.
Yeah, that one was really blatant to me, only because it's
unrealistic,
again, but it was good. It was a good scene.
And it's a comic book movie. I don't care if it's unrealistic. The fact that Spider-Man, yes, he was swinging off of Ant-Man, but from some people's perspective, where was Spider-Man swinging from?
Yeah, sometimes he was swinging off of Giant Man or some shit. I
don't give a damn what he's swinging off of. It's cool to see Spider-Man swinging with the rest of the Avengers from that shot. There's this thing called the logic to cool ratio.
It's called the rule of cool, thank you.
Yeah, but there's the ratio to it. When the cool outweighs the need for logic, the cool becomes the choice, in my opinion. And if the cool is cool enough to outweigh the logic part, you could just go, you know what, that was fucking cool. How do you think Fast and Furious has gotten as popular as it has? It went from... let's be real. It went from the from being, logical with its films somewhat early on to just trying to be fun and cool. And so I don't know. It's a side tangent, but going back to the film, I don't know. I have fun with it, and I'd see it again. So I'm gonna throw your popcorn.
Okay, I'm gonna take these popcorns, and I am going to give this movie. See, if it wasn't. Honestly, if it wasn't for the John Wick action scenes done by the John Wick 3 director, I would probably give this movie a 4. But because he comes in and he does some pretty cool stuff, and that kind of bumps up the things that I care about, like the cinematography and the colors and all that stuff, and the action itself, I can give it plus side. So I'll probably bring this... I will give this movie... I'll give it a 6. It's 5.
I thought the deficit was going to be bigger. For me...
I could be more, but like I said, Superman isn't the greatest film. It's a bad film, so
No. I know. The way you started that conversation, though, I thought you and I's deficit was going to be ginormous and would be the biggest difference we've had since the beginning of the year. On record.
I would. Part of me would gladly give it lower than a 5. But it's honestly because of the scenes that I like, the ones that I keep popping into my mind, especially the knee popping ones.
You know what? Also, I will say, I feel like for you, the more you watch this film, the more you're going to enjoy it, and
quite
probably
possibly.
the higher your ranking would be.
I could see that, honestly. Once I get past some of the pretty tropey characters at times, I'm sure I would enjoy it more. But in my first viewing, I was like, I'm going to be grumpy.
And that's fair. I appreciate that, because I'm giving this an 8.5 because I had a lot of fun with it, and I'm purely, again, for me, I am trying to get back closer to the casual rating of things and enjoyment of things. So, for me, just from a sheer just enjoyment of the film, and as, a comic book nerd, this film's a lot of fucking fun. And probably some of the most fun DC's made a film. And the last 3 of them for DC EU have been pretty good. So, you know what? Keep it up, DC. So, that would put it in 8 overall?
If you said an 8 and I said a
6,
it'd be a 7.
No, it'd be 7.5 because we round up.
Yeah, somewhere
so
around
it'd be 7.25. So 7.5. I think when you said 4, I thought this deficit was gonna be so much bigger. I thought you were gonna bump it up to a 5. And I was like, that would have easily been the biggest deficit. I still think it is the biggest, between us. So nope. Same amount of point difference. No, it is the biggest because this is a 2.5 and that's a 1.5. Never mind. No, this is the biggest point difference between the two of us so far this year. Which is understandable.
It's just, there's really, it's my lowest part is really just because the characters. If the characters had more to them, I think I would have loved this a lot more. At least the side characters. Because those side characters, I thought were supposed to be the main characters. So, no. You're muted, I can't hear you.
Fair enough, sorry, I was typing something. Let's get into spoilers.
Okay.
Because we can talk about that.
Spoilers! So, the one scene, the one that I keep bringing up, the reason why I think this movie is worth seeing is when she breaks into the police station. She walks up in her outfit.
So much goddamn fun.
Yeah, she walks in with her outfit. She has a beanbag gun that shoots glitter, smoke, and goo, and it's fucking amazing. She walks in...
And she beats the shit out of people with it.
Yeah, she walks in, clears an entire police station of police and criminals, and lives to tell the tale with a criminal that she broke out of jail, simultaneously while doing really cool stuff with fucking sparkles and smoke. And I'm pretty sure at one point there was a scene that they turned the beanbag from blood to goo because it because yellow goo on a window, and I'm pretty sure that was red at one point. That would make the most sense to me.
Good on them for doing goo instead because it's more fun.
Yeah, it's more fun, and it's a little more family. And then she does that. It's a really cool, there's particles and everything in the air, so it adds a lot of, cinematic depth and awesomeness, and they have really cool slow-motion parts where the choreography looks really cool. And then they do it again, 5 minutes later, where they're fighting in the rain rather than in smoke and glitters, and it's, sprinklers, not rain.
Yeah. It's still fun.
Yeah, it was really freaking cool. And then they do it a third time as they're trying to escape, and they're going through police, what's it called? Evidence locker, basically.
Yeah, and she finds a bat.
Yeah, she finds a bat, and that's when she starts breaking people's knees. And
dude, that guy, damn.
The one that pops up to my mind is she swings once, breaks it, goes again, swings the other guys, and then comes back.
And pops it back into place.
Yeah.
Oh, God! It's so gratuitous.
And then there's other
but in the right way.
Mm-hmm. And then,
that is how you do a gratuitous thing without being gratuitous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's excessive and fun, but it's something that you couldn't put in a rated PG-13 film.
Oh, yeah, and one thing that I love too is their use, her use of the different things. There was one moment, don't get me wrong, one thing that I wish was a little more consistent is how she became such a badass in her fights. But because she'll beat the ass out of 12 to 15 people who are all 200 to 300 pounds more than her, maybe a foot taller, barely break a sweat. Except for one guy, she had to light his beard on fire. But
Which that was cool.
yeah.
Talk about creative ways to take down.
That, you muted yourself again.
Creative ways to take down bad guys. This film does that like really well.
Yeah. And then afterwards, she like, one of the things is two guys are running up at her, so she swings the bat at one to knock him down, and then throws the bat off the ground so it ricochets and knocks the other guy out. Like, there's some really cool and innovative stuff in this movie with just the bat. That being said, my immediate thought after she did some really cool stuff with the bat was, I hope she does some really cool stuff with the mallet. And she hits people with the mallet. It's not really cool stuff, though. Because, like, the next scene is, like, there's one moment, like, the next scene where I like her fighting is the ensemble when they're in the bounce house area. That scene of fighting was done by the original director. That one was a lot more lackluster to me. And the coolest part about it is when they did the long takes between the cuts of the people fighting, where it was like, there's a long take here where it's almost like we're not going to cut, and then they would cut, and then they'd switch to the next person who was fighting, and there'd be a long take of them fighting, but then they would cut and then get to the next person who was doing a long take. And that was cool, but it disappointed me because even though they were working as a team, the editor still sliced them up and separated them into different areas, so it didn't feel like they were all fighting together as one cohesive unit. And then it got cool again because she had to chase down Roman on roller skates, and that was kind of cool.
For me, I actually really do enjoy the fight, though, that you don't like, because it's really funny. You see all of their different fighting styles throughout the fight, like that you see Renee as the boxer, the brawler style. That she's a cop, so she's got brawler style.
Which, before we get into their fights real fast, we see, before that fight even starts, we see all these people rush in. They have guns, but they walk into the building with sticks and swords and knives. And comic book has to comic book, but still.
Movie has to movie, okay? Movies you enjoy do it all the time.
I know.
Do not be that guy, all right?
I know.
I hate nitpicks like that because they're so extremely nitpicky.
Okay.
Oh, but they all walked in with it.
Action
okay,
movie has to action movie. How about that?
Thank you. Fine. That's fine.
Okay. So then, yeah.
John Wick has done it too, and we thoroughly enjoy those.
That's true. So go ahead.
Because I really enjoy the fight scene because you see Canary's kind of mixed martial arts style fighting, and you see Huntress at like assassin fight, like, you know, sort of, you know, balance while she fights kind of thing. She's trying to keep her center as her weapon, and she uses the crossbow throughout the fight, which is not a bow and arrow. It's not a bow. It's a crossbow.
It's a crossbow. The crossbow killer. I'm Huntress.
God, see, that was such a good joke. In my opinion, that landed so well for me. Because it could have just been, she's Huntress. The crossbow killer. They call me.
Wait, let me tell you about her backstory.
Crossbow killer.
They call me. Hey, on. Let me explain to you who she is and why she's important to our story. Are you ready?
Wait, no, that's what they did.
Yeah.
They did that, and then they did the crossbow killer.
Okay. And then it's Huntress?
And then Huntress.
Okay.
That was what I'm getting at.
Still, either way.
Because how it goes is she goes like, they stop. They go through all her story of being
I get
personality and all that, and then the cop and everyone saying the crossbow killer, like with like things in their throat, stuff like that.
And her talking to herself in the mirror at the same time, and I'm the.
You know who I am.
And she calls herself the Huntress, and that's just fabulous.
Great name.
Yeah.
And it's a cool name. Like, it was cool. And I think that's a funny, like, it. I think it's a funny joke, and it works well for me. And seeing how their fighting styles and working together and stuff like that. I really like the scene where, like, Dinah gets her, like, hair grabbed, and breaks out of it, and Harley yells "duck," throws mallet, and Harley comes over, hair tie, because it's comedic, but
that
it works
was
for the fight.
yeah.
Like
That one was the funny. Like that was the part that I liked in that scene because it was funny. They're trying to save themselves, and it shows them being the individual selves while also working together as a team.
And I love how this fight continues from that point too, because you see her start to do the hair tie thing,
And
but
then,
she's still kicking ass because
Yeah.
she's a mixed martial artist, so she's able to just. I don't necessarily need my hands to kick your ass.
Mm-hmm.
Just
So
use
she's
my
putting
feet.
up her hair and then kicks the guy in the face, and then we
Fucking
move on to
awesome.
the next part of the fight. Like that was the best part of that fight to me.
No, for like, I can understand your grievances, but I guess for me, like, I feel like all the characters just have a lot of fun in that fight. So, I think again, it's just going to be from each of our points of view is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And then with like Black Mask, with him specifically, he works totally fine. Like he was crazy and just this overall dick who works totally fine with like the story that's being told. But at the same time, like what happens if like Poison Ivy is the leader of the gang? Or like maybe Bane's the leader, or like what happens if
We would have a
Batman
very
shows
different-
up at one point in this movie?
okay,
like,
and I'm fine with them not doing that because, like, again, I think for establishing both the Birds of Prey and a Harley Quinn that is different, or not necessarily different, but like she still needs to be crazy to still be Harley Quinn. You need someone who's crazy doesn't necessarily like.
she's like my favorite thing that they do with Harley Quinn in this movie is they establish that she's crazy, but she's still intelligent and she could psychoanalyze anybody and kind of figure out how to approach them because of that psychoanalysis.
Right? They don't do that. That's one of the problems people had with Suicide Squad is Harley doesn't feel like smart. She feels ditzy, not necessarily crazy.
Like in this movie, she felt smart. She definitely had good action scenes, but I wish there was more to it. Like why couldn't she also be more lucky, like Zazie Beetz with Domino? Like,
Because I don't necessarily need her to feel like she's lucky, because this is also a down on her luck kind of film. So I feel like that would almost counter to that.
I get that, but like, it's not established as far as I know. In the movie, it's not established that she could fight. It's not established that.
But it was established in
Canary
Suicide
that
Squad
fight.
that she can fight.
Yeah, but what if I hadn't seen that movie? I'm just.
Well, you don't need to establish. Okay, we don't need to establish every single detail of a character,
In every movie,
that-
I understand.
or else we're gonna have another Suicide Squad, because that, like, the way I hear what you're saying brings up all the red flags. Because if we do that, DC goes back to Suicide Squad
Well,
making.
like, it could have been literally one thing. Like the moment when she's sitting there and she's like, "So I went to medical school and I did this and I did that and then I did this and then I did that and then I did this." Like even at one point, she could have been like, "And then I learned karate and then I did that and then I did that." Like it could have been that simple.
She lived with she got in a relationship with the Joker. Just assume she learns how to fight during that. Like that's how I look at it. Like she's the partner of
The Clown Prince of Crime. Which, funny enough, I like the moment when they're in her room and that Cassandra didn't know who the Joker was, because the Joker was Harley Quinn's world, and to realize that the person that she is enjoying company with doesn't even know who the Joker is was like, oh, there's other people in the world. Like, that was an interesting character moment, but...
greatly done. And also, it helps establish the theme that, like, the Joker doesn't, like, to get past a relationship, the ex doesn't have to be the center of that person's, like, arc going forward. That it works for both my favorite thing in the film, and I think it works as a good scene for you.
Like, this movie does have good things in it. It's just the characters are the part that really get me.
Well, fun fact, I just saw this. AMC theaters have changed it to Harley Quinn and Harley Quinn Birds of Prey.
Thank you,
Some
AMC.
And apparently some people at Warner Brothers I'm on Twitter right now, Joe Vargas, also known as Angry Joe. Some of his sources say Warner Brother is requesting theaters change the name to it to this.
That'll probably sell better.
We just said, well, yeah, and since we're in spoiler / news-ish kind of part, and we'll get to the list during news, I guess.
Yeah.
This episode's gonna be a little bit longer. I think our biggest problem, the biggest problem this film is gonna have going forward, especially given that, like, it's in my opinion, it's not necessarily underperforming at the box office. It did really well first weekend because it had an $87 million budget and made 81 worldwide opening weekend.
Did it make that worldwide? Because
Yes.
the numbers, okay, so the numbers I saw were domestic, and they were 33 million, and
Yeah,
that's
33
that's
million
a flop for
US,
domestic.
for US opening.
Yeah, U.S. opening, that's a flop. That's bad.
On a 87 or 84 $1 million budget.
Making less than a third of your budget in opening weekend, when opening a weekend is the majority of your money
That's
making.
more than a third.
Okay, a little more than a third, yes, but still, that's not including.
That's almost half. And I know it's not
31, 84. Sure, I'm gonna round. I'm still just gonna say a third because it might be close to half. It's a little over a third, but it's not quite half. But either way, that's awful for an opening movie release. It really is. Like, especially for something that costs like those properties themselves are a lot. These actors, sure, this movie may only. It says it may only be projected at $85 million, but I can guarantee you they thought they were going to make that in opening weekend. They thought they were going to make more than that in opening weekend.
Yes. But there's a lot of factors going into why it was never going to do that, and why Warner Brothers still needs to pull their fucking heads out of their asses with the DC properties. Because you don't advertise a film as Birds of Prey and Harley Quinn if your main character is Harley Quinn and the established character that people know already and have been attached to is already Harley Quinn, and you don't make her the title card of it, there's bullet 1 in your foot. Bullet 2 is a rated R rating. You've cut off Harley Quinn already has a large audience of teenage girls who are already huge fans of her from Suicide Squad. You've shot yourself in the foot twice by making it rated R. Number 3 is that the advertising for this film sucked. Because I had no idea, like, how this film was going to be, how this film was going to go based off of ads for trailers, right?
Mm-hmm.
No idea, there's ways to make a film, you have no idea what's going to happen in the film when you get there, and still be intrigued by the trailers, and there's ways not to. And they didn't, because, again, Warner Brothers needs to pull their heads out of their ass when it comes to trailers. So, there are so many factors beyond just, beyond that makes this, makes getting back your entire budget in one weekend not as doable.
Mm.
Warner Brothers just kind of went... It's that meme from what's that show on Adult Swim? And he does that thing where he shoots the co-host, and he goes, "Why would so and so do that?" This is Warner Brothers shooting Birds of Prey and going, "Why wouldn't the audience? Why did the audience do that?"
Something Andres, I think.
Yes, the Andre show. That's what's happened here. Is Warner Brothers shot this movie several times with different bullets, because also this movie is heavily attached to Suicide Squad, which already left a lot of bad taste in a lot of people's mouths, because it left a bad taste in critics' mouths, and then it left a bad taste in viewers, comic book fans' mouths, because DC advertised it as being the film. Well, critics just don't get it. This was made for comic book fans. And comic book fans went, yeah, you know what? Maybe this is going to be made for comic book fans. Maybe they don't get it, the critics. No, the critics got it full-heartedly what happened during that film. And comic book fans went, DC, what the fuck are you doing? Mm-hmm. And then we had massive corrective backlash, and DC just isn't as trusted as it used to be. Mm-hmm. It's gaining that trust back, slowly but surely. And this movie is a step in the right direction. But it's just advertised and attached to too many things that it's not...
It's the wrong property.
It's Warner Brothers just shooting it up and then being like, why did you do that to my movie? And blaming the viewers for not going to see it. This movie's success... even if it was still attached to Suicide Squad, mm-hmm. had some of the Suicide Squad taste in your mouth, right? From when we watched it. That was going to happen no matter what. But DC should have renamed the film and advertised it better. You could still have that rated R, but it needed better advertising and it needed a title rewrite.
Mm-hmm.
Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey.
Like it could have, like they could have kept the ridiculous title. It could have been like Harley Quinn and the Forming of the Fantabulous Birds of Prey. Like,
yeah, like something like that would have worked way better. And this film would have done way better at the box office. And I hate seeing because it's just like DC's gonna make the excuse that no one likes comic book movies. That no one likes DC comic book movies, which is wrong because I enjoyed Shazam, I enjoyed Aquaman, I enjoyed Wonder Woman, and I enjoyed the Dark Knight movies. It's just DC's gonna find an excuse for this, like they've done on every other thing, and like because they've done so many steps right with this, with trying to establish a universe, like with establishing new characters and stuff like that that aren't that like. That are going to go on, and if this movie was going to do well, like, we would get a Birds of Prey sequel, which I think would be awesome. I would love to see a movie, especially with how this ends with the three of them in, like, comic-accurate Huntress uniform. And
is that really her accurate costume from the comics?
With the goggles and everything and the purple and all that?
Like,
yeah, dude.
It looks like she was coming from, like, an indie ski rock band. That's what she looked like to me.
But it was crazily accurate to her character in the comics.
Okay.
Which I didn't expect them to do. I had no, like, every other character has been more realistic. Her outfit's over the top and real and ridiculous, but it's so cool at the same time because it's just like I didn't expect that. I didn't expect them to do the fishnets and dark costume that, you know, Dinah Lance wears. Like, but they did it at the end. Like, the characters became their characters at the end. And, like, I want to see where they go forward with those three especially. Like, even if it has nothing to do with Harley Quinn, I want to see those three characters do something now. Because they've been established now, and we understand, like, the base of their character, and we can see them grow into something else, separate of Harley Quinn. And then Harley Quinn could do something separate of them. Because I'm curious to see how Harley Quinn ends up in Suicide Squad. Because there's got to be something, and she's got to... And if she's anything like she is in this, in Suicide Squad, that's gonna be just a fucking blast. Because it's gonna be what people wanted from her in the first Suicide Squad. You take this version of Harley, put it in the other Suicide Squad. That Suicide Squad is just a lot more fun.
Absolutely. But so now my question is, because this did okay, including international poll numbers, it did okay. So,
it's made most of its budget back.
Yeah. So that being said, next would be Wonder Woman 1984.
Yep.
And then after that, maybe Suicide Squad 2.
Yes, I think that would be next on the docket.
Yeah.
Let me pull up movie list because I can.
Because like after those, I'm not sure they're gonna follow. Like if I feel like if Wonder Woman flops as well, if Wonder Woman doesn't have a good domestic release, which it should because the last one did, then they're definitely gonna stop doing these movies. Like.
Well, they're gonna give up on the DCEU.
I feel like they're not gonna like already. I feel like Black Adam is already probably on the chopping block. Like it's barely been made as is. Like they just started doing like pre-production, but I feel like they've already been like, all right, based off of the review of Birds of Prey, we're gonna have to take a step back and wait a little bit.
The thing is, like people who go to see it are having a blast with it. Like people who the target audience is having a blast with it. Is how I'll put it. Let's say that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Like the video you shared with me about critics and stuff like that. We talked a little bit about last week. Like you don't necessarily need critical acclaim to have a film that's gonna be successful and have fun and be good for your audience. And the problem is, like, this film's problem is seriously just title, advertising. If you do it better, you have a Deadpool on your hands. Like, in my honest opinion, if you advertise this as Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, and you actually advertised it well, you have a successful rated R film. And DC's going to use... I am afraid of what you're afraid of. DC's going to use this as an excuse not to do this anymore. Which sucks because I want to see... I want there to be DC superhero films because I love Marvel, but I don't just want to go see Marvel films. If I'm watching superhero films, I want to see DC as well because I love DC characters.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why I didn't switch into my Nightwing shirt before this is because we had a discussion before it,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have time to change.
I was going to
because
throw
I had
on
to
my
go to
Marvel shirt today, actually.
funny. And I got a new phone. Like that's the whole reason why. Like, if it wasn't for all that, I would have sat here and had I would have had the Nightwing shirt on and all of that. Like next year they have planned Suicide Squad and the Batman. Those are gonna happen regardless. And then Black Adam is supposed to happen in December that year.
Okay.
But whether or not it actually happens, because let's be real, Warner Brothers is having problems with franchises as well, like a Fantastic Beasts. That's not exactly doing well franchise-ally.
I mean, Warner Brothers itself just isn't doing well at all, especially because when you think about it, ever since they took over, like, Rooster Teeth has sucked. So, well, not sucked, but they've been going downhill as well. So just Warner Media itself is kind of dragging itself down a little bit.
HBO's doing all right with
But-
its shows. Watchmen did really well. Westworld's doing really well. There's a lot of good shows on there, and as long as they figure out how to, do endings and not give people who obviously want to move on to other projects and not care about the ending, to end it, the right to end the film or series, then I think they'd be all right on the front of TV and stuff. But no, they decided to do stupid shit like that.
Can we talk about that real fast? Like,
DB Weiss and
yeah, David Benioff and DB Weiss. I love the fact that they rushed. Well, it seems like they rushed through the creation of the last season of Game of Thrones to do their Star Wars stuff, and then they drop out of the Star Wars stuff to work with Netflix. It's like, So that's fun.
I'm glad I'm not as hurt about that as everyone else who was heavily attached to that show, far more than I ever was.
Mm-hmm.
Because man, that would have hurt.
Yeah, that was.
If I was.
That was a long road for such a long bit of disappointment. So, okay.
And you know what? That's the thing. I think Warner Brothers just that's a prime example of them having something that people loved. That there was obvious a roadmap of where the ending was supposed to go, and then just go and someone in the work of it went, we need to get there faster.
Mm-hmm.
They did it with DC. Someone did it with that. There's people doing it with Fantastic Beasts. There's a lot of people did it with goddamn Hobbit.
We gotta get there faster, except put it in 3 movies.
Yeah, there's decisions like that that just don't make sense, and I'm hoping they get it together because I don't just want to watch Disney movies.
Yeah, I'm getting
as much as I love Marvel and Star Wars, I do watch other movies.
There was okay. Let's move on because I feel like we're done with spoilers. I'm gonna head into. Okay, I'm gonna head over to the news and wrap up here. But before we actually do that, let's talk about our ratings for.
Okay.
Our standings for the DC universe.
Okay, so I will say 2 of these I solidified, and Steven had the right to change elsewhere as he chose, and this is the list we came up with.
Yes. So
is that a fair way to preface this list from the get-go?
That's a good way. I mean, that's a good way to put it, I guess. You had one list, I had a separate list. We decided
there was a lot of conflict.
Yeah, there was a lot of arguing. We decided that these ones can't change, but the others can move around a little bit. So yeah, that's.
And I said, and we decided these 2 were pretty much for both of us in the same spot. If we compromised, Steven gave me the choice of where to put them, and I let him choose everything else. is how I will preface this list.
Yes.
Even though there was some influence and some points from me,
Mm-hmm.
the rest of the list ended up as is collaboratively as could be, I guess, is the way to put
That's
it.
a good way to put it. Like, I definitely know there's things I would love to change still, and you would love to change still.
But we can't.
Nope.
And we can maybe talk about our individual lists, because we have both of them. I have both of them easily accessible.
I can grab my phone, too, so it's really easy to look that
up. So, starting at number 8, we have Suicide Squad, obviously. Maybe not obviously for everyone, for someone here, but, like, this was going to be near the bottom no matter what we did.
Mm-hmm. This was definitely towards the bottom. That's fine.
Justice League is number 7, obviously. Like, again.
Mm-hmm.
In all honesty, I could see number 6, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, being lower than it if it wasn't for the Ultimate Cut.
I mean, maybe with the Ultimate Cut, sure. I just thought Batman v Superman was just better than Justice League altogether. Like, sure, the Batman v Superman story was a little jumbled at times, but I liked it better than...
Do you remember the theatrical cut that well?
I barely remember the movie itself at all. But
fair enough. If we ever watch the theatrical cut again, you'll see why it could potentially have dropped under Justice League. Yes. But
I mean,
which is weird that we're gonna. I give it points for the Ultimate Cut.
Mm-hmm. I mean, my Justice League was all the way at the bottom. It was the worst for me.
True. Number 5 for us is Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is Man of Steel.
Mm-hmm.
Number 3 is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn, which might now be Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. Whatever eventually IMDb says, I'll change it later.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Wonder Woman, and number 1 is Shazam. So, with that being said, do you want to do your version of the list first, or do you want me to do my version of the list first?
I'll run through my version really fast. So, my version of the list, the way I had it initially, was I had Justice League all the way at the bottom, because sorry, phone started ringing at me as I was looking at this. So yeah, I had Justice League all the way at the bottom because I thought Justice League was kind of just the most boring of the movies. It just, like, the characters themselves were kind of boring. The stories that they told were bad. The villain was the worst out of all the villains. So, because he was the most unrememberable, and I just didn't like it, especially because everything was solved once Superman showed up. So, that was my disappointment there. Next after that was Suicide Squad, because I just... The redeeming factors were Harley Quinn and Will Smith, but even that was not quite good enough. Those two, honestly, were very much interchangeable for me. They both ride the line of, I probably won't watch those movies again. Batman v Superman, I put up there, like I said, because I just thought it was better than Justice League. Just the slightest bit. Next I had in 4th place was Birds of Prey. Because, like everything I said, I thought the characters were flat, but the things that really brought it up were the action scenes. After that, for me, 3rd place was Shazam. Shazam, I put there, or 4th place, my apologies. 5th place was Birds of Prey. 4th place was Shazam. I got my numbers mixed up. Shazam, I put 4th place because it was funny, it was creative, it was goofy at times, but all at the same time, it was, once again, just a little flat, kind of hollow, a little bit simple. It's like they cared more about just kind of having fun than they cared about, like, following and establishing rules that they had developed, or just characteristics of the villain. So there's that. 3rd place was Aquaman, only because I've seen Aquaman too many times not to put it in the top 3, mainly. It's just, I put Aquaman up there because I can clearly watch it over and over and over and over again. So there has to be something good about it, right? So Aquaman 3rd. Wonder Woman, I put 2nd because Wonder Woman is a very well-made movie, but I completely forgot that I watched that film. I legitimately blocked out most of the movie, and like I was rewatching it, I was kind of bored, and the villain, when Ares shows up, pretty darn terrible. So there's that, and then at the very top I put Man of Steel because of the discussion we had today.
So my list was number 8, Suicide Squad, because I think it's the worst overall, for a lot of reasons. And watch that episode if it's uploaded. If not, when it gets uploaded, watch it.
It'll probably be this week. That's probably something I'm doing this week. It's just
Number 7 was Justice League. I had a lot of problems with that. Both of us have Batman v Superman in the same spot. Man of Steel was my 5th because, again, as we talked about today, I feel like there's fundamental issues with it. Aquaman was number 4 because I enjoyed it. I had fun. Wonder Woman was 3 for me because I felt like it's really good up until the final fight where it's just CGI smash fight. Number 2 was Shazam for me because I enjoyed it all the way through, again, up until the CGI smash fight, but it did a different kind of CGI smash fight. So good job. It was different.
I can't hear it. What?
It did something different.
Mm-hmm.
It had giant CGI monsters smash against giant CGI people, but it was different than, it had 6 of them doing it instead of, one-on-one. I don't know. It was different. And I had fun with it. And then number 1 for me is Harley, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn as my number 1 because I felt it was the most fun I've had with a DC film so far in the DCEU. It's the most entertaining to me, and its action was the best so far. And character-wise, I had the most fun with those characters. So that's the list for me.
Okay.
Where we go from here, who knows? We'll see where everything else goes. Hopefully Wonder Woman 1984 is higher than Wonder Woman on our list. We'll see. We might rate our list going forward, as we might update our own personal list just so we have them. And you could be like, well, this is where I ranked it in between these. If you remember the list, go back to this episode to see where that list. That's where we've put things, and that's where they will stay. Until further notice. So, with that being said,
more news.
More news, yeah.
Just news in general. So
yeah.
So I'm not gonna spend the time to just put it up on the screen because we could talk about this stuff pretty quickly. So the news that I had brought up, the first thing I wanted to talk about was there's gonna be a new director for Doctor Strange 2. I feel like we've already discussed that a little bit, but do you know who it's assumed it's gonna be, rumored to be?
Who it's said to have been is none other than Sam Raimi?
Yeah, Sam Raimi.
What?
You mean, it's weird because from what is said about this from what I know that was said about this is, the director originally wanted to make one movie, was told he couldn't, and eventually he walked away from the project. It could have been a number of different things, like creative differences, like being told, no, you can't make Doctor Strange into a horror movie. Could have been, I had a vacation at the time.
Sorry, I accidentally clicked something.
Yeah, you're just mashing buttons.
Whoops. My boot.
No worries. But yeah, other things could be like he's just has a vacation planned for when they want to do production, so he could have just stepped back because of the vacation. There's a number of different reasons, but I want to talk. How do you feel about Sam Raimi possibly directing this?
Well, if the idea is that it's going to have some horror elements to it, but still be a Marvel movie, I think Sam Raimi might actually be the perfect pick, strangely enough.
Okay.
The man knows horror and the man knows comic book.
I get that. Doctor Strange, but the original Doctor Strange director, who was his name? Scott Derrickson. No, that's not it. Scott Derrickson. Scott Derrickson was the original director of the original Doctor Strange. He was a horror director at first.
Yes. But I think he wanted to lean too heavy into the horror. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's a multiverse of madness.
Sam Raimi can also do campy horror, which you could make campy horror at a PG-13.
That's true.
And still have fun with it.
I mean, just look at Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. That was the scariest story we saw last year.
But it was a PG-13 and it was good.
It was alright. I was just sad because that was the better story. Okay.
It was the best horror movie we watched that year, and you were really.
I was really
It's
bummed
just
out
one
by
of
that.
those-
I mean, other than Us, but that I like Us was a scary movie, but I wouldn't. Part of me doesn't consider that a horror film. Like
It's a different breed of horror.
It's a
like,
psychological
Jordan Peele's
thriller.
horror is a different breed of horror.
yeah, so it's
it's not
good. It's really
yeah.
good, but it's like it doesn't quite scratch my itch for scary. You know.
Yeah, it's not your favorite kind of horror.
So
It's my favorite kind of horror, but
then,
that's
sorry, go ahead.
yeah.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
So yeah.
The next thing that I wanted to talk about, small little discussion, is Knives Out 2 has pretty much been confirmed. And it's just...
Oh, I'm hoping the rumor that someone said, because someone tweeted at Ryan Johnson to be, I'm really hoping that we keep getting the Knives Out movies, and each time the movie happens, when Daniel Craig's character shows up, he's got a different ridiculous accent. And Ryan Johnson retweeted it and went, "Yeah, I've thought about this." So I'm legitimately hoping that's what happens. Is that Daniel Craig's accent is completely different, but still ridiculous in so many ways,
Mhm.
and it's just that character.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a follow-up story of Benoit Blanc. Like, that's definitely going to happen. But that'd be really funny if it's just another really terrible accent.
You know how that would be. The Knives Out mythos would be so cool if that's the case.
They would need at least 3 movies. Like,
Yes.
if they did it once and it's fine, and his ridiculous accent is fine, sure, that's just funny, interesting character. If they do it twice and that's it, then it's just an actor who doesn't know how to act his same character anymore, which could be confusing.
But then you make it a trilogy, and the third one explains it.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly.
And we get our Moriarty why he does this.
Yes, exactly. So, I just want to talk about that because it's pretty much been confirmed, and that was a fun movie, so why not talk about it?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's have that sequel. I'm in.
Yeah, why not? Another thing, this isn't really movie or movie news related, but I thought it was just kind of funny because I've been wanting to tell this story on like the Har Har podcast for a while, but I haven't had the time to be on it, so I haven't brought it up. But The Walking Dead has released an ASMR version of The Walkers. So you hear like, but all ASMR-y. And
They're really getting desperate over there, aren't they?
it kind of seems like it. Like, this was very much a weird gimmick. And that got me down this really random hole of ASMR. Rabbit hole of ASMR. Because, like, I started, like, okay, what is ASMR? Why is everyone so interested in it? And then I was, like, watching Amarath for a little while. And I was like, okay. And I was watching other people for a little while. And, like, I went to a bunch of different Twitch people just to see how ASMR was. And it was weird on Twitch. And, like...
You want to know what is a great way to learn about ASMR?
What's that?
The documentary that Rooster Teeth did.
Okay.
Because it talks about, like, the more, like, actually, like, what ASMR is. Because it's not just the...
Autonomous somatic, yeah.
To the mic like
It's
this.
supposed to be other things, like relaxation and, like... It's,
Yeah,
but,
like...
yeah, the worst parts of ASMR on Twitch are the people who just talk into the mic like that. The worst
Like
ones...
this
yes.
the entire time.
Yes.
And you can hear me, like, with my lips
Mhm.
smacking.
No, the worst ones are the ones who do what they call ear eating, where it's literally the whole time. And it's like, why? Ah! So,
Yeah, no.
yeah, that's where this whole thing started, was ASMR walkers. And it's like, this is weird. So it's like, what other ASMR can I listen to? And then you hear people eating your ear. And
You
then
can sign
hear...
into my first membership, and I'll let you watch that documentary
Yeah,
on
sure.
there, okay?
Why not? It's just...
If you still want to go down that rabbit hole.
I don't think I do after this point.
Well, you can explain it's very different than what's your interpretation of it, and for some people, it's therapeutic.
Absolutely. It's not for everybody. It's just not for me.
And there's different types of it, is the big thing. Like,
Mhm.
someone can get an ASMR feeling from just seeing food or something like that.
But, like, I know what an ASMR feeling is because I usually get that feeling when I get my hair cut.
That's an ASMR thing, yes. There you go.
So
That is something that triggers some people's, like, ASMR feelings. So, the internet changed it.
Yes.
And broke it, as it does with many things.
We gotta have it all really fast, right here, right now. So, okay. So, that last thing I wanted to talk about, and then we're done for today. Unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about. But I wanted to talk about the Oscars.
About what?
The Oscars, they happened yesterday.
Oh, yes. Yes, they did.
So, the Oscars, I was working through some of it, but I got to catch the end. And I just wanted to go over the awards. I don't really want to talk about speeches or anything, because everyone's talked about Joaquin Phoenix's speech by now, so we don't need to go over that.
I didn't watch it, so I have no idea what happened during it, so...
I'll boil it down to basically saying he's calling most of humanity hypocrites, and we need to tone down on our like, what we're doing to the world. And he really went vividly with it by saying we artificially inseminate cows, we steal their babies from them to eat them as food, and then we steal their milk intended for those babies for ourselves. And that's just wrong. And then he extrapolated on that. And that was basically his acceptance speech.
You got the spotlight to use it. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. So, like, it was a good message, and I'm not mad at him for it. But I don't really want to discuss it. That's not the point of this. I just want to talk about the awards and things.
That's fair.
So
you explained it to me. It works.
No problem. So I'll start the way they did it. I believe. I think it's just from first to last. The very first one they did was visual effects. No, never mind. That wasn't the first one. I'll just read it in this list. The one they have first is visual effects, and the winner of that was 1917. Costume design was Little Women's Jacqueline Duran. So visual effects, I was kind of iffy because in the same category was Star Wars, Lion King, The Irishman, and Avengers Endgame. 1917, I think is great cinematography. I'm not sure about visual effects myself.
Yeah, I feel like the other ones did more with visual effects. I'll even give Irishman that.
Yeah, like, I was even thinking, like, The Lion King is, like, a technical masterpiece of visual effects. But 1917's better?
I'd have to watch a lot of the behind the scenes when that comes out on Blu-ray to understand that pick.
Yeah.
Maybe they see stuff behind it. Who knows?
Yeah. Then costume design was Little Women, which my grandmother that we were watching it with her, she's like, of course Little Women wins it. It's a period piece. How does a period piece not win best costume design? So
yeah,
that could be
it's
bias.
an easy pick.
Yeah, that could be bias there. Who knows? Best hair and makeup went to Bombshell. And its opponents were Joker, Judy, a movie about Judy Garland, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and 1917. The best original song for a soundtrack went to I'm Gonna Love Me Again and Rocket Man. That one I very much agree with, because I like that song based off of the others. Like, I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away in Toy Story. That's boring. It's very repetitive. It's not super original. I'm Standing With You in Breakthrough. It sounds nice, but it's not quite as orchestrated as I like. Into the Unknown by Frozen 2 was...
Into the Unknown!
The best part about it to me was the orchestra background music, but the vocals themselves were not important. And the music itself, like the message it says, isn't a very good message in the music. And then I haven't heard the song Stand Up Harriet, so I don't know how that one sounds, but I gotta say I'm Gonna Love Me Again by Rocket Man was a good choice. Best original score goes to Joker. And its opponents were Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and Star Wars.
It was a fair pick. I'll give it to that. Like, the fact that I have to say that Joker had a better soundtrack than Star Wars this year hurts on a lot of levels. But it did.
Yeah, like, when I think about it, like, Star Wars is famous because Star Wars theme song, but that's not necessarily...
Not just Star Wars theme song. All of the music, even the prequels, is all good. And up until... Even in Force Awakens and Last Jedi, the music is really memorable. Like Rey's theme.
I was about to say, I don't know
memorable.
Rey's theme, actually.
That's Rey's theme. It's the when she's coming down like inside the AT or inside the Star Destroyer and all that. When you first get introduced to her and she moves the sheet and all of a sudden the music starts the.
Yeah, you've saying it 3 times.
I know. But like, it's really memorable and stuff like that. But like, when I think of Rise of the Skywalker, there's not any music in it that's memorably unique to it.
Mm-hmm.
It all feels pieces of the rest of the saga, which I mean works in a way, but doesn't feel as original, I guess.
I get you. Yeah. Okay. Next was production design, which it was the Irish. The one that won was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it was up against Parasite, 1917, Jojo Rabbit, and The Irishman. Production design, I kind of got that because it got interesting between like the Wild West and then the not so wild 1970s, 80s, whatever year I'm forgetting at the moment. So I guess I could kind of see that at times, but whatever. Sound mixing, the winner was 1917. Its opponents were Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joker, Ford vs. Ferrari, and Ad Astra. Sound editing, not sound mixing, but sound editing went to Ford vs. Ferrari. So, I guess they really like the sounds of cars and crashes and things in that one. Film editing, the best film editing, also went to Ford versus Ferrari. So, cars and crashes and close up on tires and things. That's cool. And it was up against Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Parasite. Best foreign film goes to Parasite. That one kind of makes sense, especially when I start talking about more things here. Best live action short went to The Neighbor's Widow. No, The Neighbor's Window. So it's a live action short film that these people just do for fun, basically. They make no money off of these. So The Neighbor's Window. Best documentary short went to Learning How to Skateboard in a War Zone If You're a Girl. And I would compare them to others, but we don't really know those, so it's hard to do that. The best featured documentary was American Factory, which was a story about American culture and factory work mixing with Chinese culture and factory work and how those combine into modern day capitalism, basically. Let's see. Best cinematography was 1917. Best original screenplay was Parasite. Best adapted screenplay was Jojo Rabbit. Animated short went to Hair Love, the one about the daughter who in the Wyatt. Yeah, I love that one. Best animated full length feature was Toy Story 4. Story Toy 4.
Which again, it's Pixar. It's a Toy Story film. It's gonna win.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Its opponents were How to Train Your Dragon, I Lost My Body, a movie that we didn't see. I had not even heard of. Klaus, the Netflix Santa Claus movie.
Yep.
And then the Missing Link claymation movie.
Yes. Which, let's be real, if it would be a real fight if Toy Story wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But Toy Story is there. And I'm sorry, like, what, Toy Story, each of the Toy Stories have won it, if I remember correctly?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Well, sorry, guys.
That's kind of like, oh, Toy Story's here? Here you go.
Kind of, and it's well-deserved, because if you want to see animation progress over the years, 3D-wise,
yeah,
just watch each Toy Story movie, and you see, like, animation just get better and better and better.
Mm-hmm. That is very true. Okay. Next category was director. So I want you to guess this one for me. Martin Scorsese.
I already know it was Parasite.
Okay, yeah, Parasite. Bong Joon-ho. Parasite. For best director, there was supporting actress was Laura Dern in her role in Marriage Story. Supporting actor was Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, working off of Leo DiCaprio. Best leading actress was Renee Zellweger for her role as Judy Garland in the movie Judy. Best leading actor was Joaquin Phoenix in Joker. And then the best picture of the year, basically, was Parasite. The first ever foreign film to ever get Best Picture.
Which, well done.
Yeah.
I've heard really great things about it, so.
I was both excited at that moment, but also simultaneously disappointed. Because I was watching this with my I'm getting really tongue-tied. I've had 2 of these filled with alcohol, so. But, I was disappointed because watching it with my family, my grandmother had said, well, that seems kind of redundant. Why can they win Best Foreign Film and Best Film? And my argument, I didn't talk to her about this, but my argument was, why should they not be able to get both? Like, what makes it that the foreign film, why is it that the foreign film can't get Best Picture if it got Best, it's not foreign film anymore, it's actually Best International Film. So, why is it that this person who I have known to be a very progressive person, very understanding of wanting to like include people and other cultures, suddenly think that a an international film winning Best Picture and Best International Film is redundant? I want to know how many others people thought this.
Oh, there was a lot of rants about it.
That doesn't make sense.
I saw a ton. It doesn't make sense either. It's the same argument as to when people said that Into the Spider-Verse should have won Best Picture that year, which was an argument to be made, but it won Best Animated Feature, and I was one. You if we remember,
I remember that. Yeah, you were one of the ones who were arguing for it.
Yeah, and the argument was, well, it's an animated film. It's in the animated picture category. And it's going to win that, so why should it get Best Picture? Why shouldn't it? And if Parasite's going to win Best International Film, why shouldn't it have a chance to win Best Picture and win it? Mm-hmm. Like, if it's the best film there and also pushed, campaigned well enough, it's gonna win.
Yeah, like the way I saw it is like it makes it seem like you're fine with just the recognition. It's like, oh, the recognition that other people other than Americans is totally fine. That's all we need in our movie industry, is that we know that other people other than Americans are making movies. It's kind of like the same argument to me. It feels like that. It feels like these same people would be okay if we had the Best Female Directors Award. Like,
yeah.
Rather than just having more ladies in the best directors, I feel like these same people would be satisfied if we just had a award specifically for women directors, and then.
But that doesn't address the actual issue.
Exactly.
It's like when people were like, well, maybe we should have best popular culture film. And people were like...
So, People's Choice.
Yeah, and people went, well, what's the point of having that category if A, people don't get to choose it, and B, it's just a way for you to be like, comic book movies go over here.
Yeah, basically. So... It's just,
which doesn't exactly work.
It's just there's some silly, dumb thoughts when it comes to the Oscars and the Academy and all that random stuff, and it's kind of disappointing sometimes. Other times, I'm totally for it. Like personal opinion, I still don't think Adam Sandler deserved an option for Best Actor for this one role. If he had more and more of good roles in his past, I would say absolutely give him the nomination. But
he has good roles in his past.
Like, the way I think about it is, like, I compare him to Leo. Leo, basically, every single one of his movies has been good. Every single one of his roles has basically been Oscar-worthy. But he never got it until Revenant. And then...
Which was his least Oscar-worthy of all of them.
I get that. I understand that. It is definitely his worst performance. But it's the one that he got the Oscar for. And then at the same time, people are arguing, well, we have Adam Sandler, who's done this one performance really well, but all of his other performances don't scream high praise, very well-talented actor. So it's like if he had done at least one...
all of them, I've seen one other film that he does really well in.
If he had at least had, if he had 3 movies, a grand total of 3 movies where he was an amazing actor, I'm sure he would have been nominated. Like this one with Uncut Gems, he would have been nominated for it. It's just that it was a wild card that it just doesn't fit in this year is why they did it, and that I kind of agree with, because he is a wild card, and it was a very, very pleasant surprise, and I liked the movie. It's just that just because this one performance, I'm not sure if he deserves it after all of these years.
Well, there's also the one with him and Ben Stiller where he plays a more serious role, and also the other one when he plays a character who's dying, and he's a comic, and it's a very real film. He's had two other roles, I can't remember the name of the films, that are very real, not funny films.
Mm-hmm. But are they good films?
If I remember correctly, they got better critical reception than any of his other films, really.
I'll have to look into that then. Because if that's the case, then I'll gladly rethink it. Because all I ever think of is like Happy Gilmore.
Well, yes. And you want to know why? It's because the other films aren't advertised as well.
Mm-hmm.
One was a Netflix movie.
But wasn't that the Sandy one where he's the Jewish lawmaker or something?
Yeah, and he's got his brothers and family and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Like that one I haven't
it,
seen, but I want to see it because I've heard it's good, pretty good.
And there's another one, if I remember correctly, there's another one where he's got cancer, dying, and it's more of a serious take on, a comics like legacy.
Okay. I'll have to look into that. For sure, then. Because, based off of my knowledge, like I said, I just don't quite see it yet. But I'll watch those movies and I'll maybe get back.
Okay, and I'll point out that your knowledge of it also shows is how I view people's knowledge who run the academies and stuff like that, because they don't even watch
all the movies
half
that
of
are
the films.
Yeah. I get
or half the films that are trying to get in, and it's just mind-numbing.
Well, these guys didn't pay me enough money to watch their movie, so I don't need to watch their movie.
From what I saw of the trailer, the one trailer I watched, it looked like it was garbage. So
I mean, sometimes I get that. Like, when I watched the second announcement trailer for Anthem, I was like, wow, this looks like garbage. When the first one was really awesome and hype. But it's like sometimes these trailers do that. I felt that, like, that's the big reason why I don't watch trailers anymore. I've told that story, so.
Fair. But also, like, giving your opinion on a film based, like, giving your overall opinion on a film overall, strictly based off of what you see in advertising,
Mm-hmm.
isn't an opinion on the film.
No, I get
in my
that.
opinion.
These are people who are proving legacies, basically. Making people's lifetimes, like, household names. And they don't really look at all the movies.
Nope.
So there's that. Okay. I haven't got any other news other than what we're doing next week, unless you've got something.
Nope, I got nothing else. Let's talk about next week.
Okay, so next week is the moment we've all been waiting for. We finally get to see the blue blur make his way onto the big screen. So next week is going to be Sonic. And did we decide Assassin's Creed?
Assassin's Creed.
Nah.
We're doing another video games week.
Yeah.
Video game week 3.
So yeah.
No. Is it? No, it's 2. Because didn't we do Tomb Raider and do we? No. Is it 2 or 3?
I think it's 3.
What do we do with Rampage and Tomb Raider? Or did we do those 2 together?
Let me double check real fast as the thing pops up on the screen. Because I'm pretty sure we did Rampage with another animal movie. Like giant animal movie.
Did we do Kong Skull Island that week?
I think we did.
The fuck did we do with Tomb Raider?
That was Tomb Raider 2018 or 2019?
18, I think. If my memory serves me correctly, because this came out the same year as Rampage, if I remember correctly.
I should really label these differently. Because I've only ever really labeled these as like movie 1, movie 2, movie 3, or spoiler 1, spoiler 2, spoiler 3. I should have done it like movie 1, Rampage, movie 2, this movie, movie 3, that movie. Oh.
Here, I'll pull up when it came out.
That helps.
It was 2018. It released March 16th, 2018.
Rampage was April, so I didn't start keeping the graphics until May. Damn.
And I really don't remember what we did with that.
The very first one, the very first group of graphics I have is from May 14th when we did Batman Ninja, Deadpool 2. No, Deadpool.
Wait, we did those two together?
We did Batman Ninja and the original Deadpool. My apologies.
Oh, still, we did those two together?
It's okay. The next week, we did Emoji Movie and Deadpool 2. So...
Wow, our theme sucked back then.
Yes, they did.
Why did we do that?
It was just new movies. And something to make us miserable, I guess.
Hey, Batman 2 was not... Or Batman Ninja was not miserable. That was a fucking blast, and you know it.
But yeah, I guess it was fine.
Turn your brain off.
I can't. My brain doesn't work that way. Let's see, I had to have put this somewhere else. I mean, I could find it another time, but like...
Oh, I just saw the worst take. Dubbing is better than subtitles. First off, it's not just Americans who don't like subtitles. No one likes subtitles. They're only common in countries too poor to afford dubbing in dubbing industry. Just that's not true.
Yeah, I was about to say that's not right at all. Ah, there's a thing blocking the screen now.
All right, yeah, that's it. That's all I've got.
All right, yeah, that's all I've got. So next week,
Video Game 3.
Video Game 3, as we discuss. Sorry, I was looking at some of the things from March. Full Metal Alchemist and Game Over Man? That's what we did together? Huh? Alright.
Oh, two Netflix originals that came out like at the same time. That was the theme. It was Netflix week. That was the theme. Alright, that was the theme.
That sounds right. And then we did Justice League with Ready Player One.
Wait, we did Justice League with that? That's when we did?
Apparently. According to this, we did it April 2nd. With Ready Player One. Because I'm looking through... And then we did Logan and Quiet Place together the week after that.
Man, I'm glad we got our shit together in 2019.
The week after that was Truth or Dare in Rampage. I was skinny 2 years ago. What happened?
Truth or Dare?
Mm-hmm.
Whoa. Oh, I remember that film. Oh, God.
I remembered sending some good Snapchats after that mill. Alright, let's call it quits here. We're done.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Do all the things.
With all
Hit
the
the bells, the subs, the follows, the things.
Yeah, YouTube, Twitter, Discord. What am I missing?
Nothing that I have else to command for yet.
Watch us here. So you guys know, Third Player Optional will not be on tomorrow because Jay, our host, is having his anniversary with his lady. So,
congrats!
Yeah, tell them congrats. Spam their inboxes and tell them you love them because they're good people. So, until next time, until next week, we will see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.